So I promise this won't take more than 1 hour. So yeah, I'm Juho Vepsa, and I mean, you didn't tell my name. It's just Juho. It's Juho Vepsa. We can train that next time. So it's the same. So anyway, I came from Finland yesterday. I live in Vienna, but I was in Finland for 2 weeks. I went to Finland because I organized an event, React Finland. So you will hear more about the event in this presentation. But I guess everyone is a little tired, so this will kind of get forward from the first slide because we cannot spend too much time here. So I think I started my career as a web developer in 1995. I just didn't know it. So it was, I think it was the year when we got the internet in the school. It was a great year. For many reasons. One of the reasons was that Finland won the ice hockey world championship for the first time. We won Sweden in the finals. It was the first time we won something, and it was like the whole country went crazy. And yeah, and we got the internet, so we could write web pages or websites. And how did we do this in 1995? You type some HTML, something happens, you make some money. It started like this. So every site in 1995 was like this. So you went to the internet, you found a site, somehow you found a site, and it was like under construction. It's very difficult to find these days. Try to find a page that's under construction. Yeah, next I want to make it more believable, make it like black, because black is the only color. And I like metal music, so. And I don't know if you remember this, but there was this, yeah. Yeah, it's on my homepage. Exclamation mark. And we had these browsers, remember, not just Chrome, but they had Netscape and this one. But I mean, these days, yeah, forget those. Actually put it online. Yeah. Let's go back. So, what's missing from the site? I forgot to do a couple of things. I could have done visitor counter. So every page had counter. You don't see this anymore. I cannot find single page as a counter. There was no web ring on my page. You remember these things. So the point was that you get the web ring and then you get random links on your site, and your site gets to random sites. So it's search engine optimization, 90s style. Doesn't happen anymore for some reason. Not enough GIFs or GIFs. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I'm missing this Mercury. I'm missing. Yeah, I'm missing blink. I didn't have anything that blinks. I don't have a GTI bin script to capture feedback. I mean, it was so nice to write the script and then you can do things on the backend. I didn't host it on GeoCities. I mean, yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, but it's so nice to put the site over there. And it was like a big city, and you had address, some street, some number, and you get to your web page. And there are like districts, different districts for different kind of sites, very nice. I didn't do any CSS yet. I mean, it's just basic page. I didn't use JavaScript because it was invented in 1995. Nobody knew it yet. I didn't use Ajax. Wasn't invented yet. It was like 6 years later. But the stack, I use HTML. I mean, that's all I need. So let's go 20 years forward. Oh, it's more than 20 years. I feel old now. Oof. So how do we do this in like now? First, I go to Twitter. I try to figure out what's the current thing. And I find something, of course. Then I initialize a project. Then I install whatever is in the hype. I have to wait 1 minute, 2 minutes. I don't know, something happens. Now I make money. So yeah, it's more complicated than 20 years ago. So to give some example, I made so-called modern sites for React Finland conference. So here, what I used EJS and React for templates. I could just React as well, it doesn't matter. I used Webpack because for some reason, I know the tool. I used GraphQL because at one point I realized that it makes sense to have the content separate from the site. I'll explain the reason in a bit. I decided to use GitHub as my CMS. So I put the content on GitHub. I can show this later. I used Netlify for hosting. GitHub pages will be fine, but Netlify gives me some advantage. I wrote my own little tool just to tie all this together. It's not a lot of code, but it's enough. And the site works without JavaScript. So I can give it to someone with a browser from 1995 and they can browse the site. And this is what it looks like. So I have the content registry, it's an npm package. Then I consume it oh yeah, there's actually a mistake here. Wait a minute. Yeah, there's a mistake. Because I have GraphQL API, and then I have mobile app. I can show the app, just give me a minute. And it's like React Finland app. Yeah, it's here. Believe me, it's here. You can get it from the App Store and take it on yourself. But it relies on the API, and then I have the site. And actually, the site at the moment it relies on the API. So it's not like this. It is what it used to be. But then I realized it makes sense to use the same content for the both, so it goes through the API. So I have to fix that. I forgot that. And this is the reason why I have the API, because I have multiple consumers. And if I want to share the content, I need some uniform way to share the content. So in practice, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. What happens when I do a commit, Netlify, it gives me a build. I can check out what the site looks like at any point of time. If someone makes a pull request against my site, I get this preview. So I get entire site. So imagine you have a site per commit. It's again the same. Data model, I wrote it in GraphQL. So I have a little schema to describe, I have this and that kind of data. If I need to change things, I can do it gradually. So let's change a field name. I change the field name, I make sure that the site and app change it as well. And I realized at one point, because I wrote the schema, it made everything much clearer, because now you can see that I have this and that kind of data. Styling, it's really old school. I use SAS. I could be able to. I can use CSS and JS, but I just not enough time for that. But I think I will show a little demonstration, because at one point, because I'm not a designer, I just made a site. I didn't care about the design, and I realized that I need to hire a designer. I hired Andrei Konechnikov for 2 days in Vienna. So I sit next to Andrei, and I was like, Andrei, work for me. And he was like, yeah, I will work for you for 2 days. So we made a list of things to fix. We made the design. So, because it's Finland, so we're supposed to make the site look like Finland. So we did some research, and yeah. Then we make this mock-up. Yeah, you can see, Andrei's doing some work and give some instruction, do this and that. But it's doing the header. And yeah, we found this Finland toolbox. So Finland, as a country, has an official brand. You can find the brand online. We have we have Persia font, charities images, lots of related things, so we didn't have to do our own graphics. Then, once the design was done, we started porting the site to the new design. So there was already information architecture. There was bits in place to make this process easier. So then we started porting. We did some animation. Yeah, We'll see. I will work out. We realize it's too expensive to run all the time. But it's, yeah, it's progressing. It's not complicated site, it's like 6 pages or so. Yeah, we do navigation design, and I think we do mobile analytics. You see, it's quite fast, fast to work this way. It's 2 days of work. Yeah, it's 2 from CSS. Yeah, not so interesting. Yeah, that's 1 day, and second day. So we did some stuff, and there's a lot of things to do. So yeah, we used less before, but Andre doesn't like less, so we went to SAS. And now we start doing the mobile design and tablets. So you see, we can just check it out, multiple browsers, editor. And it's coming along. Yeah, subscribe form important. So we can sell tickets to people. Yeah, it's getting that. And sponsors, yeah, because we have sponsors. We had too many companies wanted to sponsor us, so we had to say no to money. It doesn't happen. Yeah, super. Yeah. Yeah, it's endless amount of work. So, I mean, a couple of pages, but still, it's like, yeah. It's almost done. Yeah, come on, work on it. So that was the old site, not so great design. I mean, the content was fine. It has to package it right. And then there's a new site, same content, like same underlying design, but the outlook is different. And the thing is, I think we sold for like 8,000 euros once we launched the new site. We just sold crazy amount of tickets, so it was good investment. But yeah, I guess this is like quite modern way to work on the website, just to give some idea what it might look like. So there's one problem with this kind of thing. So let's say you start doing changes to your data model. How do you deal with changes? So it's like you do a big content change. On the content repository, I do one thing because it's on GitHub. I do modification and I follow Semver. So this means that as long as I follow Semver, everything works. And I do commit, and based on that commit, it makes a new version. So I don't have to publish myself. There's a system that does this for me. And based on this commit and this new release on NPM, my API, I tell the API that, hey, there's a new version of the content, update yourself. And then it tries to install the new version. If it's a breaking version, if it's like a big version change, nothing happens. But if it's like small version change, then it gets the new content. Because otherwise I will break things. If everything went fine, then the API tells the site, hey site, I have new content for you, go and build yourself. So we do the build again against the API, we get static output. And I guess the thing I learned here is that I can use Semver to keep it together so everything works. What's missing from the site? It will be very nice to do inline edits. So you will go in the browser, I decide that I want to modify this and that bit. I could do this on top of the current design because I have the API in between. I could do a Chrome plugin. I could authenticate myself. I could like double click on something and start editing the site, because then I go to the API. API writes the content repo, and then we go again. It's a cycle. I could do like multiple languages, again because I have the API, so it's small extension on that. I'm trying to port to Webpack 4, is work in progress. Now I'm just at 3. I could do style guide. I could take the components. I could push the components to style guide, and if I was really like busy person, I could have like multiple events running, and I could reuse the content and the components. I could do this PWA, which is popular these days. I could do something with the API, because now I have single interface, but the site doesn't care where the data comes from. So for instance, I have like speaker information, and speakers, yeah, they're in this conference, but maybe it's useful to push the speaker information outside of my content repo, because it's like generic information. Or let's say I have location information, I could do geocoding against the location information. I could figure out the location on map, and then I could do nice maps on the front end. So when you have interface, you can do nice things behind it. I have some issue with prop types, because I feel like I'm doing duplicate work. So maybe I can figure out how to do this right way one day. But yeah, we have static sites and then we have CMS, so what's the difference? So static sites, they're atomic, so I can do like one site per commit and preview and go back to history and so on. So very simple to host. And I mean, because of the design, there's not much to crack. So you can, of course, there's a server somewhere, but it's quite hard to get into that. And quite friendly for developers. CMS, dynamic by nature. It can be a very good thing sometimes. More complicated to host. There's more to attack. Maybe you have admin interface. And these are more like for the end users. But there's something in between. Just look up Jamstack when you have time. Because I feel that there's like convergence. We're going somewhere that's like between CMS and static site, so that we have like features of both, strengths of both. You can take this out later, but we can do like authentication and these kind of things that were not like possible before. There's just one question: what does it look like in 2081? Yeah, it's I mean, nobody can tell. Maybe we don't even do web development in 2081. But yeah, I think maybe it's like this. So you tell your phone, make me a set. Something happens, profit. So maybe the point is that we have to go very complex so that we could go simple again. Because I feel like now it's like exploration, this time of exploration, and we're figuring things out. Once we have figured things out, it's going to get simpler again. And Stack is supposed to read AI, not AII, but maybe have artificial intelligence, something to help with design. Blockchain, important to mention because it's 2018, and yeah, maybe we use blockchain in the future as well. Machine learning, yeah, important because of this year. Yeah, and this point is interesting because in Japan they're doing this device that can read your mind. It's not very accurate, but you can get like image out of your mind. So I think in like 60 years, I think we can do something that can really get accurate picture of your mind, and we could like imagine a site, imagine something, and just have it happen. You never know. And so to conclude, yeah. I think static sites, they still have like value. So even 20 years ago, that was the starting point, and 20 years later, there's still value in static sites. And they're still improving. And it's like this, yeah, this category CMS static site, I think there's going to be this overlap, and we'll have like solutions that fit into this gap. And I think you can do more dynamic things with static sites than you think. And we get more and more functionality all the time. This is more my personal point. One site did the separation of I separated content from the site, everything became much easier for me. So it was easier to develop the site, it was easier to design the content, and so on. So I think architecture-wise, it's very wise. And yeah, you can find the GIFs and stuff online. If you want, I can show actual code. I don't know if it's so interesting, but so here's my content. GitHub is my CMS. So let's say I have talks. His Ken's talk. So it's Ken meter, speaker. As a speaker, I support multiple speakers. Title, how React changed everything, and description, what I mean, blah 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 blah. And then type, it's keynote, some keywords. Yeah, and it's like database, but it's like sort of read-only, or like, of course, you can write into it. Yeah, and actually, I can show you the history. So you can see who did changes. So I get this audit, which is nice. And it's an interesting bit. There are like 2 more bits. Let's go code. This is how I define my data. So there's actually a lot of things, a lot of thought went into this, and I can still improve it a little bit. But it's like, you can see the concepts I deal with this in this API, and this is enough for me to generate GraphQL API based on this definition. Let's run. So I did query. Like I went workshops, and from workshops I went titles, I went locations. I could have more complicated things, but yeah, here I see I have this kind of workshops, and I see the locations. One thing, because I have this place for content, I can make the content more rich. By this I mean that I can generate references. I can make references between different types. I can generate data. Like here I generate URLs for slides. So I have slides following a rule. I generate social links. So I resolve the links. I have a tiny bit and then I write the prefix. I generate some references between the types. It's going to be quite complex, but I can push things to logic. And this is where I could aggregate data from different sources. And I mean, there's not much to show in the API itself. Let's see. I mean, this is super boring code. It doesn't do much. The graphical API somewhere. This is my API. So from the content side, it picks up the schema. It gives the content to this, and this creates the API. So API in like 7 lines of code, not too bad, and there's lots of functionality. Then on the side, I mean, I could spend some time explaining this, but it's getting late and I'm running out of battery, so so I'll just show you how I connect. Let's say I have pages, and let's say I have schedule page. So yeah, there's some, it's better to show the site. So you see the mapping. So here's the schedule. So there's some introduction here. Then I have pages. And here's the content, and some sponsors and so on. But yeah, here's the intro, and here's the schedule. I get the content from my API through query. It's always like this. So let's say speakers. Here's a little bit more complicated because I need more data per speaker. So for each speaker, I get name, I get their talks, I get workshops, I get image, I get social, I get location about keywords. And all of this gets passed to my big layout, like page layout. There's like master layout, and then there's layout per page, and then it's React components. And one point I forgot to make, I have what I call interactive, because on some pages, let's go here, like this thing here, I cannot do it without JavaScript. So what I did, I figured out a way to write interactive bits. So first I bundle, and I bundle while I bundle. It sounds complicated, but it's simple in the end. But the point is that I can tell this interactive, this is where it will bundle again. So it writes a bundle for this small piece of code. And just to show one more thing, I have what I call like site mapping. This is where I define that I have these parts on this site, and these happen to be pages that map to the data. So it's data, because that's what the generator does. It maps the data to a site. But I mean, there's not much time, but you can ask me later how I did it. And there is a blog on React. I mean, you can find the blog from their site. There's something about the website here. But it was a nice conference, nice experience. And I think we'll do it next year again, so it will be a little bigger, and maybe, I mean, I don't know if we can do it more fun, but yeah. We had conference beer. Have you ever seen a conference with their own beer? So, and we still have so much beer left. Yeah. I mean, maybe we can take like some questions before we go and get some sleep, or what?
So did you bring beer from the conference here?
I mean, you should have asked me like 2 weeks ago. It's too late. But I mean, yeah, maybe we can organize something. Maybe they can send beer here. It's one option. Yeah, there's someone in the back.
Have you considered storing files in the Markdown syntax and reading the GraphQL?
Yeah, it's better to have the mic, because I won't hear a thing.
Hello?
Yeah.
My question is, have you considered storing the content in Markdown files in GitHub and reading it from the GraphQL API of GitHub?
So, I mean, I started out from JSON. I tried JSON first, but then it became complex because of references. But I mean, that's actually one good point, is that I think you could do that. So you could use the GitHub API. I just didn't realize there's this option, so I wrote my own API. But I think that might work. And you could still have, I mean, you can do crazy things with GraphQL. I just started realizing that it's like, you have this contract between your site and like the content, and behind this contract you can have anything. So that's the big thing about GraphQL for me, is that you can kind of you can get the data together, and like, yeah, it doesn't matter. There's the interface. What happens behind the interface is up to you.
All right. Any more questions? So thank you, Juho, for the talk.
Yeah, thanks.
And we hope you can get some sleep now.
Yeah, it's super late.
So thank you all for coming, and to the host again. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Good night.